Yeah, then I think we can start. I just want to say, you probably saw it, that this webinar will be recorded, and we have now our own YouTube channel, 3PNO, so it will be published there. And of course, since Hannah don't speak Norwegian, we have to do the whole webinar in English. And you can hear that I'm talking like very Norwegian English, so you don't have to be embarrassed about talking in this webinar. So welcome to this webinar held by 3PNO, Tre Prinsipper Norway. This is our first webinar with an international speaker, but we have already had 3 webinars before this one. So we welcome Chana Studley. I think a lot of you have heard about it, heard about her. But I just say some introduction. Hannah is an international well-known author, speaker, and coach. She's written 4 3P books, including Painless, which has been on the top of books sold on Amazon. After learning about the principle, she recovered from severe PTSD, and her back pain and allergies disappeared. And that was why she wrote that book. Written, yeah, whatever.
You're doing great.
That's a hard word. Okay, but yeah, she helps clients around the world with all sorts kind of problems. And she's also recently came out with a new book. I've written about read about half of it now. It's really great. It's called Beyond Diagnosis, a very important book as well. This webinar, I've talked to Hannah, and we have chosen to have it as a theme, pure 3P. There are no exceptions, and that's from our conversations. I have had 10 hours now with Hannah as a coach. It's been really great. And I didn't contact her because I've read the Painless book during the summer. And then one morning I just woke up and had this great feeling. And I wasn't even thinking, I was just, okay, I contact Hannah because I have to talk with her. And then, yeah, it started like that. So she's been a great support for me this autumn, starting this group and being in a really good process. Yeah, so apart from, of course, pain and problems, mental issues, one thing I really like about Hannah is is that she's very like, there are the 3 principles. We're not adding anything. There are no exceptions. And that was what she wants to talk about today. And after she's been talking for a while, you can ask her questions and come with comments or just share what you're hearing. So over to you, Hannah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Helga. This is such an honor to be your first international speaker. I think it's wonderful what you're doing, building a group in Norway and being, helping other helping other people to come to understanding the 3 principles. It's really amazing work, and to provide that service for people. I think it's great. So I'm so happy to support that and be here with you guys. And like Helga said, I will open it up for questions because I love answering questions. I can go on and on and on, but I like it much more if I'm answering questions. So please, get your questions ready, because I think that will make a wonderful discussion for us all to join in. And so don't worry about your English. Somebody can translate if it's difficult. So just have a go. So yeah, so Helga, when we started working together, you know, Aaron Turner was doing this program for 3PGC called The Simple Premise. And I know Helga was, you know, loving that series, as and many people did, because what Aaron was pointing to was that the principles are the foundation, not just of psychology, but of everything. And that was something that came up when I wrote Painless. I had I was very lucky to have Dr. Bill Pettit write the foreword. And I remember when he, after he read the manuscript, he asked to meet with me and have a Zoom. And he said, I love the book. I love everything you write. He said, but there was one thing. And I thought, oh no, what did I do wrong? Right? He said, there was one thing that he said, you don't have to change it. But he said that in the middle of the book, you say that the 3 principles are the foundation of all psychology. He said, that's true, but it's not just the foundation of all psychology, it's the foundation of everything, right? The 3 principles are a discovery, if you like, of how all reality works. So what I wanted to start with was, recently a client asked me a question, and she said, are there people that the 3 principles might not work for? And I said, so I turned it into my answer. I was very annoying. I turned it into another question. I said, are there people that gravity doesn't work for? Right? Like, can you imagine? I was thinking like I just flew back from Denmark. I was there, you know, a few weeks ago. And can you imagine if somebody on the airplane, gravity didn't work for them, right? I don't think I'd want to be on that airplane, right? Or can you imagine sitting down for dinner with your family and your friends, and then someone just starts to float away? You know, like that. There's a scene, I think, in Harry Potter where one of the characters just starts to float away, and they're trying to, you know, get them back. If gravity doesn't work for you, then we're all in trouble, right? So we know that that's not true. Gravity, which is always, you know, a great example of a principle, that it works all the time. There are no exceptions, and gravity makes our world work. And it doesn't matter if you're in Australia or in Norway or you know, anywhere on this planet, there's gravity. That there are no exceptions. And Katrina, I think, is on this call, educated me that there's also gravity on the moon, right? Maybe a little bit, right? But it's a principle that is true throughout the universe, right? It's true all the time. And that's what I see about the 3 principles. Excuse me 1 minute. Hey, sorry, my cat was my cat was trying to eat my fireplace. Sorry. And so I love the fact that Sydney Banks called them principles, because it really helped me to see that this is not just another method or another technique, right? I think if you were to take any other modality, everything from Freudian analysis, DBT, CBT, NLP, what else is there? There's tapping, like EFT, BBC, you know, ABC, right? There's so many different techniques out there. It's like I hear about another one every week, right? If you were to boil them all down, you would come to mind, thought, and consciousness. So when someone says to me, oh yes, but my acupuncture really helped me, or my therapy really helps me, I bet you it's because for that half an hour or that 40 minutes, that person has slowed down. When we slow down, our thinking gets a little bit quieter. We feel better. So it's like an innocent misunderstanding that better feeling is coming from maybe the acupuncture or the therapy or the walk on the beach or the hot bath. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things. But I think what often happens is we innocently attribute that calm feeling to the activity or the guru or the location. And so an example I've often used is when I first got excited about the 3 principles, I had a friend who was having some physical problems, and she was not interested in what I was seeing, which is okay. It's always hard to explain this to friends and family. And what she loved was acupuncture. And so she was going to acupuncture maybe 2 or 3 times a week at the time. I think she'd gone every day if she could, right? And so I asked her, what is it about the acupuncture that you like? And she said, oh, I just feel calm on the way to my appointment. I thought, that's interesting, right? She's not even there yet, and she's feeling calm, right? And so I listened to her, and she said, yeah, I lie down, and the lady who does the acupuncture, she does, you know, her stuff with the needles, and there's this lovely soft music, and there's the smell of the essential oils, and you know, she's such a nice person. She listens to me, she gives me advice, and she said, I always leave there feeling very calm. And I thought, and I suddenly had this analogy. You know, in the principles, we love to talk in analogies, because I think when we're pointing to spiritual principles, that's the best way often to communicate. So I had this analogy came into my mind. I thought, she is using acupuncture like a gas station. Like, you know, if you drive your car, right, and you got, like when I had a car in Los Angeles, like the, you know, it runs out, it's on empty, and you have to go to the gas station and you fill it up, and then you drive around and it runs out again. So she is going to the acupuncturist and filling up on calm, right? So she feels nice and calm now when she leaves, but she has to deal with her children and traffic and her job and the mortgage and all these other things that we all have to deal with. And the calm runs out. And she thinks, where did I last feel calm? Oh, at the acupuncture office. So I have to go back. So she innocently was thinking she had to go to the acupuncture office all the time, because that's where she finds the calm. And some people, we find the calm on the beach, you know, or hiking in the mountains, or walking your dog, or music, or, you know, like I said, therapy. There can be lots of ways where we're feeling better, but actually we're innocently misunderstanding that calm feeling is here. It's inside. It's who we really are. And so when we slow down, we get more in touch with that calm feeling. So understanding the 3 principles to me have been about seeing that I don't have to do all those outside things. When I understand how my thinking works, and that every painful thought I've ever had, every broken heart, every bit of agitation or frustration has moved on, and it's constantly moving. And when I see that that thinking isn't me, it's just some spiritual energy that's going through my mind. When I see that it's always moving, I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to believe it. In fact, I would say most of my thinking is quite unreliable a lot of the time, right? So as I began to understand that I didn't have to listen to it, I didn't have to feel all the yucky feelings I was feeling before, and I could stop doing all those techniques. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, a lot of writing, thinking that's what was making me feel better. But what I found is I actually got better when I stopped doing all those things. I don't need to keep running back to them anymore. I don't need to keep running to techniques anymore. It was exhausting when I was doing it, and now I get so much more energy and time just being in the moment and being comfortable with being me. So one of the things that happened probably at the beginning of the year, or maybe it was last year, I was called a 3 principles purist a few times, and I don't think it was meant as a compliment, right? They weren't saying it in a nice way. And I remember talking to Aaron Turner about it. I was like, they call me a 3 principles purist. And then as I talked to Aaron about it, I was thinking, you know what? It is a compliment. I'm going to take it as a compliment, because I feel so much gratitude, so grateful that I've been blessed with seeing the simplicity of this. That I don't need to go to those other things anymore. And I've had conversations with people and even some clients who want to combine the 3 principles with, I don't know, other modalities, like maybe massage or expressive writing or all kinds of things. Now, if people want to do that, that's fine. But I would say, I would want to ask them, why would you need to do that? If you really understand how this works, then why would I need to add it in? Because it's a bit like saying, mind, thought, and consciousness need help, right? Do mind, thought, and consciousness need help from my writing or my meditation? And something I love that Sydney Banks, I heard him say, I think it's actually in one of his books, where he said, do not confuse the act of meditation with the state of meditation. Right? So what does that mean? So I spent a lot of time practicing meditation. At first I was told, it was suggested to me to do it to calm down, to feel better, to be more in the moment. My mind was so busy that practicing meditation was a way to feel more present. And I remember, this is when I lived in California, because that's the thing, that's what you do when you live in California, you go to meditation, right? And I remember sitting in lots of different classes, and it was so painful because my mind was going so fast, you know, like, oh, you know, and then I'd feel that, and then you're feeling a bit peaceful, and then a thought would go into your head, like, that guy's breathing very loudly. No, we're not supposed to be doing that. And I'd have to keep coming back to, you know, controlling my thinking, and I'd be exhausted by the end of it. I used to go on silent retreats, and then I got better at it, and I could do it twice a day. Then I could do it 3 times a day. And I'm like, oh, look at me. I can meditate 3 times a day. Right? And so my ego is getting attached to this fact that I can meditate now. So it was actually not doing me any good, really. So when Sid said, don't confuse that with the state of meditation. So what is the state of meditation? State of meditation for me is a quiet mind. Sid often talked about a quiet mind. And I don't think he meant a silent mind. Because in meditation, I was always trying to get silence. But silence is, I don't know that that's, I don't find that so helpful anymore. What I started to see, a quiet mind is just a mind where I'm not bothered by my thinking. I'm not listening to it. I'm not giving it much credit. It's going through, like, those thousands and thousands of thoughts we have a day. They just don't interest me much anymore. It's almost like let's say, I say to Eva, let's meet in New York, right? We'll meet in Times Square, yeah? I'll meet you at 10 o'clock and we'll go have a cup of coffee. Now, Times Square in New York is very loud and very noisy, right? But if I met Eva and we met on the street and I'm like, hi, how are you? We could still have a conversation. We wouldn't need New York to be quiet in order to meet and have a good time. We could walk along the street and we could chat, and there's going to be sirens and music and people shouting and taxis honking, right? But she and I could still have a conversation. That's how I see my mind now. My mind still has thoughts going through it. It's still doing its thing. But I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to engage with it. And so my quietness is coming from the fact that I'm not busy trying to fight or manage or control or fix my thinking. Because I spent a long time doing that, trying to fix and control my thinking. When I first came across the 3 principles, it's like I knew the problem was my thinking, but I thought I had to do something about it. And I think my first real big insight was seeing that because thought is always moving, every thought I've ever had has moved on. So all the fixing I was doing, it was like dragging that thought back into my mind to work out how to make it leave. Well, it had already left. So to me, a quiet mind is being okay with just watching those thoughts go by. And the more I've been able to do that, it has got quieter. My mind is pretty peaceful neighborhood to hang out in these days, right? It very rarely gets busy, but it can. And I'll tell you, on Friday night, my mind got a little bit busy. I have a broken ankle right now. It's not painful, but it is. I'm limping because I don't want to put my weight on my ankle. And I went to my friend's house for dinner. She was having a dinner party. And it got late, and I thought, I really need to go now. And it's going to take me a bit longer to walk home because I'm walking very slowly because of my bad ankle. And I was about to leave, and there was another lady there at the dinner party, and she said, "Oh, I'll come with you." I said, "Okay, fine. We're going in the same direction." And then she starts chatting and telling a story. And I'm like, because I wanted to go, right? And then the host needs to go find my coat. And she's like, so she can't go and get my coat because this woman's telling more stories. And it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And suddenly I went, I could be home by now. Ooh, right? I caught myself being childish. Like I was sulking. In fact, I stood in the room and stood on one leg so they could see that I need to go. And I'm so happy for this understanding, because the principles have shown me that when I get caught up in my head like anybody else, but the moment I catch myself, I can stop it. I don't have to sulk. I don't have to make sarcastic comments. I can come back to the moment and say, you know what, I need to go now. And then we left, and it was okay. But it seems like a silly story, but I'm so grateful. That's a rare thing for me now, to feel a bit sulky or sarcastic. So much of the time I feel in my quiet mind, thoughts are just going through and I don't pay them much attention. And I don't need any other techniques or modalities or methods to make me feel any better. So I'm going to pause for a moment, because I'd love to answer questions. So let's see if anybody's got anything they want to ask me. I can keep talking, but I feel the need to stop and just see if anybody wants to ask anything. Anything I've talked about. And it could be about something else too, any of my books or any other 3 principles questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to say your name right. Oyvind, is it?
yeah, that's correct.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, yeah. I love this conversation, and I have a question, and because I see what I love about the principle is that, like you said, it's a principle. It's 100%. It's not 99%. It's 100%. So when I don't see, I know that. Yeah. So because sometimes I have this, I see my own thinking, and when this thinking transforms to a feeling, and I'm starting to getting this. It started with a feeling, and then it's transforming to. It started with my thinking, and then it's transformed to a thought, and then to a feeling, and then this feeling just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I see that I often do things that I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I'm just feeding this my own thinking, and that makes whatever problem I created bigger. And then I often go to, I know that if I love dancing, I love to go to nature because that makes me calm. And that's not a problem for me. But it's a problem for me if, for instance, I overeat. or if I don't have a problem with alcohol, but if that was the case, then it would, then maybe I feel that that's a problem, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't quite understand, know how to ask this, but because for me, I try, sometimes it's so hard for me to understand that, to see that it's a principle. So I just continue feeding this, my thinking, and make this problem bigger.
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate you sharing with us, you know, what's going on. And you're right, you know, we can distract ourselves with walking on the beach or in nature, and that doesn't have any calories, right?
Yeah.
There's no calories in, you know, going for a walk. In fact, you know, walking is good.
Yeah.
But when we turn to things like food or alcohol or pills or, you know, there's, you know, really dangerous things sometimes that people turn to get rid of those feelings. The first thing I would say is, we judge ourselves for doing that, then that's more thinking for a start.
Yeah.
Right? So what I do in my clients is, I think one of the things I say a lot is, if you find yourself like in an eating binge or a pain flare-up or a panic attack, be as nice to yourself as possible, because that's not the time to be trying to fix anything. You know, it's like when you're in the middle of something like that, it's like trying to fix it is just going to make the problem even worse. So what we want to do is to help ourselves not get to that place where we're in so much discomfort that eating or drinking or cutting or all the other kind of things that, you know, we can sometimes do seems like a good idea, right? So I see it as a question of consciousness. Consciousness, often talk about consciousness going up and down, you know, like an elevator. So I've never met anybody with a full and happy heart who overeats or drinks too much or cuts or does other things, right? So I know that if I'm considering behaviors or wanting to run away, even if it's like walking, going for a walk or writing or meditating, all the things I was doing before, it's letting me know that I'm my level of consciousness, my mood is going down. And the more it goes down, the more I've learned that I have no business listening to that thinking. So I see those kind of behaviors like they're like alarm signals. Like if like a good example is a smoke alarm. You know, so if say this, you have a smoke alarm in your kitchen, and you know someone's cooking, there's a fire, the smoke alarm is going to go off, and it's very loud. Now, I could hear the smoke alarm, and I could go, "Gosh, they didn't have those when I was a kid. They're so clever," you know. And it's really loud. No, means get out of there, right? It's information. The smoke alarm is information to keep me safe. The same as like feeling hungry is telling me to eat something. Or if you're sweating, it means you need to cool down, maybe drink some water, or, you know, go put the air conditioning on. These are all signals telling me something. It's not a punishment. It's not a judgment. It's just information. So what I started seeing was like whatever bad behaviors I might have, like when I realized on Friday that I was sulking because she wasn't leaving when I wanted to go. The sulking, I haven't done that in years. And it woke me up to the fact that I wasn't present with my friends anymore. I was up in my head. And because I was up in my head, I wasn't making the best decisions. Because I was listening to my yucky, judgmental thinking. And the minute I caught myself, I came out of it. Now, if I hadn't caught myself, I could have been rude, sulked, walked out, behaved badly. But I'm so grateful that I was able to come back to the moment and be back with my friends. So you're right, it does go thought, feeling, behavior. But sometimes the thinking can happen so quickly that we don't hear the thinking, we just feel the horrible feeling. But when we're feeling the horrible feeling, whatever we catch first, that's my clue. That is always my clue to come back to the moment. And in that moment, I can come back and see that I'm not my thinking. The thinking's just moving on. And to not judge myself. I think that's the most important thing. Ovin, does it make sense not to judge yourself? I'm not sure if you heard what I was saying, but...
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I know that every time I judge myself, if I'm very hard to myself, I know that I'm just overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so used to every time when I have a problem, I want to fix it.
Mm.
And this, for me, yeah. And for me, I know that if I just see it, just my thinking, I don't have to fix it. Actually, I just created it, so I don't have to fix it because, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know
nothing
it's so crazy because I know it's not a problem, but I'm making it a problem.
Right. But that's like saying, I'm a little bit dead. You can't be a little bit dead. Right? Like when people say, I know it's my thinking. I was lucky enough to have Elsie Spittle as a teacher. And I remember Elsie talking about this. She said, often in the Three Principles community, we'll hear people talking about getting an intellectual understanding of the principles. And she said, that's like being a little bit dead. You can't have if you have an intellectual understanding of the principles, then you're not getting it. My way of saying it is it's like trying to be a little bit pregnant. Right? You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either going to have a baby or you're not going to have a baby. So when people say, I know it's my thinking, but,
yeah,
right? Yeah. I know, but I think in that moment, we're not seeing that it's thinking. We may have see it, what often happens, we see it in so many areas, but then we all have a blind spot where there's an area where we don't see that it's thinking. We see it's real. And this need to fix it, I think, comes from in that moment that we're not seeing that it's also just thinking going through. There's something in the content of the thinking that seems very real. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you get curious, that in that moment when you have that urge to fix it, what if you could be curious about, maybe this is also just a thought. Because it's like, I don't have, here, I'll use a book. Like imagine there was a small child and the mother has just put the child to bed. And then the child starts screaming, Mommy, Mommy, there's a monster, right? And Mommy runs into his room with a knife and a frying pan. I'll get it. Right? The poor child would be freaked out, right?
Yeah.
Thought there might be a monster. Now your mother really thinks there is one because she's got a carving knife and running into your bedroom, right? So that's like giving the doubt credit. If we try and fix it, it's like we're saying there really is a problem. So in that moment, we have a blind spot and we're seeing that there's an issue, a problem. So we have to, and that's why people will still run off to meditation and writing and, you know, all the things we were discussing, fixing it. And even if it's distractions like eating and drinking, because on some level we must think there's something frightening that we have to run away from. What if you could see that that's also an illusion? So I God willing, it's never going to happen ever again. Right? No, it happens to me, so don't worry. But the next time we get caught up, just maybe see if you could be curious about, maybe I don't have to run away. Maybe it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. Because usually I found in after a few minutes it passes. If we can hang in there, it always passes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know how that works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Dagfinn who raised his hands.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Chana.
Hi.
Do I say the name right? Chana?
It's Hannah, like just with an H, Hannah.
Hannah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate. Thank you to Helga, who has got you and let us Norwegian speak with you. I also heard you you are doing working as a speaker, public speaker, and I also do that, and I also coaching one-to-one. And my question is, do you also work with business? Like prevent, I do, but it's not easy to get inside the business world. In my head, I'm working like prevent burnouts and thriving. So do you work with business at all? And how do you do it?
I don't so much. I usually just work with individuals. I have done, I've worked with hospitals, you know, with groups of people in like staff members in hospitals. And I think if I worked with a business, I would probably do it in a similar way. We had, when I worked with the hospital staff, I did four Sunday mornings, 4 weeks. And what I did was, beforehand, I had a survey, like we call it a wellness survey. Because like they're, you know, especially hospital staff, they're very much into statistics and, you know, tracking people's, you know, health. So I had one of those well-being surveys where, you know, I think it's a famous one called the Warwick-Edinburgh chart. And it's questions like where you say, how many times in the last week did you feel conflict, say in a relationship? And it says never, sometimes, always, you know, they check off, you know, and then you can add up the numbers. And these kind of wellness surveys are very useful because if you do it again at the end, you can see, it's good for numbers because then you can see that things changed, right? And then you can turn that into...
I also have things like that. It's called a motivation analyzer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a way, yeah.
Yeah. So then in the sessions, I just broke it down and talked about mind, thought, consciousness. I mean, I don't know why, but I always like to talk about thought first, and then I talk about consciousness and then mind. It doesn't have to be in that order. That's what makes sense to me. And just using lots of examples. And what was good about the hospital one is I had a client at the time who she worked in the hospital. So because I don't know all the language of this particular type of business, like a hospital language, she was able to like help, like join in and turn the questions into something that was really appropriate for those people, like supervisors and time management reports and stuff like that, which I've never had a proper job. I've been in self-employed my whole life. So these things were new to me, but it was, I can tell you at the end of it, when we did the second survey at the end, there was incredible changes in how people were seeing themselves, their relationships, their jobs, because burnout, like you said, burnouts can be a real problem, especially with nurses and doctors and social workers, people like that. There's a high statistics about people having burnout because they care so much, and that beautiful caring, they then take it home with them, and they get exhausted. So understanding the principles is a really important for, especially, I mean, for like teachers and social workers, I mean, for everybody, but they're so good at their jobs, and then they just don't want to do it anymore. So bringing the 3 principles to people like that, especially, and also managers and, you know, salespeople, all kinds of businesses, that when they understand how the mind works, they can do their jobs better and keep staying at their jobs, which is better for managers and better for businesses, you know, to not have people coming and going all the time. So I said, I don't have a lot of experience. I would love to do it more. But where I live, I have a language barrier, so it's not so easy for me to do, you know, locally. And it's nice to get in and meet people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, then it's Nina.
Hi.
Hi, Nina.
Hi. I feel so lucky that you are with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was thinking of when Øyvind was talking about knowing its thought, but still maybe not seeing it clear. In the introduce, or some of the first things you said something about the thought is not mine, it's just a spiritual energy passing by. And I was talking to a coach. I was on a program with Omar Ben Musa, by the way, very beautiful man. And he said something similar, because I had so much trouble with that. I felt I am making the thinking and I'm responsible for my thinking. So the wanting to fix it looked quite what should I say? It's, oh, I have made it, so I rather tie up after my thinking. And then when he spoke about that, I could see, so it's not my thinking, it's the thinking going on. And I had a big kind of release and kind of a surrender. But then still sometimes I can have the feeling that, yeah, but this is thinking about my story, and my story is kind of my life. So sometimes I still confuse myself, or I don't see it clear. And I was thinking of that when Øyvind was talking, because the willing to, or the need to fix, might it have to do with that you feel the responsibility for the thinking?
Yeah.
And could you speak a little bit more about this? It's just thinking, and it's not mine. I would like to hear again something about that.
Yeah.
If you would like to.
Yes, thank you, Nina. Yeah, I think there is a direct relationship between how much we think our thinking is real and how we feel, right? So think about, you know, like in a children's playground, there's that toy that goes, you know, like you're high on this end and then it turns, like in England we call it a seesaw and Americans call it a teeter-totter, so I don't know what you guys call it. But, you know, one kid sits on this end and it just goes up and down, you know, like the kids just have fun going up and down. So if this one goes up, this one has to go down, right? So there's a direct relationship between one going up and one going down. So in terms of thinking, the more I think this situation is real, I'm going to feel that thinking, right? So I'm innocently believing this situation is very real. You know, this person is causing me to feel upset. The noisy neighbor, the traffic, whatever it is create, like outside in, we would call it. The more outside in I'm thinking, right, then I'm going to feel that. But the more I see, actually, it's not outside in. Maybe it's just my thinking. I know it's kind of my thinking. I start to feel better, right? And then when I see like, oh my gosh, it's just my thinking, I come out of it, right? So I can tell you, I've been around the three principles coming up on maybe 10 years, right? I could count on one hand the amount of times I've gone boom like that and popped right out of it, right? It can happen. I've experienced it, but it doesn't happen all the time. So why doesn't it happen all the time is because I'm still thinking she was wrong, or he's being too loud, or they shouldn't have treated me that way, or, you know, and it might be just very quietly like a little thought over there in the background somewhere. But the degree to which I'm still listening to that doubt, I'm still listening to the story, even a tiny bit, that's the degree. So I'm not going to pop out of it completely unless I completely see it's just thought going through. Does that make sense?
Yes, but maybe I thought my question was a little bit about something else, but
Okay.
maybe I don't see the whole thing. Let me try to say a little bit more. I know, not always, but even if I know that this is the thinking going on within my head.
Mm-hmm.
That when I had a quarrel with my husband some days ago, I think he was not nice to me. I knew that I was sore. It was not his words, it was something in me that made me react. So I had the thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then later I can judge myself. Why did I have the sore thinking? Why is this something I have produced that I really pick, or is it just energy going through me? How do I attract exactly that thought? Why does exactly that thought come up within me? That's what I'm thinking. I'm not really responsible, maybe, or at least it's very, without knowing, how do you say that, innocent, that it's innocent that I have a thought about that.
Yes. Yes. Psychological innocence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I personally, I don't believe that we have any or much control over the thoughts that come into our minds. I can get very random thoughts, funky thoughts, maybe even a criminal thought, an inappropriate thought, right? Still happens. But I think we do have free will about what we do with those thoughts. So let's say I have a random thought comes into my head. If I'm in a good mood, I'm probably not going to pay any attention. So, you know, I could have a thought like I'm fat, or I hate that person, or that person's so annoying. And it's just going to go through and it's just like, no big deal. I might even find it funny. I might not even notice it. But if I'm in a low mood and that same thought goes through, it might be the end of the world. I'll be like, oh, right? Either because I'm seeing it's true, or like you said, I might then judge myself for having the thought, right? So I think what happens is when we come across the principles, it's like thought kind of becomes like the enemy, right? Thought is the bad guy. But thought is neutral. Thought is neutral. Thought is not what's creating my experience. It's like it's how I react to it that's actually creating the experience. Because thought on its own is just going through. Like it's like, like just like a taxi, and then there's a truck, and then there's a motorbike. There's just different kinds of thoughts are going through, different content, different stories. And then when we come across the principles, we become very aware of our thinking. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be having that thought. I went to that 3P and I read all these Sydney Banks books. I shouldn't be, right? That's also a thought going through, right? And I think sometimes we don't register that our commentary and judgment about our thinking is also a thought going through, right? Right? So we're trying not to have that thought, and we're beating ourselves up for having that thought. And so now there's like, oh my God, right? Where did that come from? I shouldn't, like, right? The moment I say shouldn't, then that's also a thought. So when, I was saying to, isn't it, Oyland, about the, the signals, excuse me, the signals when my thinking speeds up, or it gets very busy, or there's a debate, those are all signals. They're all clues not to listen to that thinking. And it might only just take 5 minutes to just take a rest from it, come back, and then I can make a decision, or I can do whatever I need to do. Sometimes I might need to walk away from my thinking for longer. But I've learned not to listen to it, because if I engage with it, that's like, again, I'm seeing it as real, and it needs dealing with. It needs fixing. It needs changing. I shouldn't have this thought. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but it's already gone, so there's no problem. Is that better?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, let's see. Thank you. Eva, you have your hand raised.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Eva.
Hi. What I'm hearing is that we are talking about human experiences.
Yeah.
And for a short while ago, I had this thought that I'm not learning about the 3 principles. I'm actually learning how to be a human being. And I'm not thinking about it, that this other perspective that came in, but I've noticed it's getting important to me because I've written about it in the Facebook group, and now it came up again. So I have this sense that it's very important to me. I don't know what it means. I don't know where I'm going with it. I don't have a question, but it's just this humanity has been important to me, because when I have asked questions to 3Ps practitioners in coaching, when they highlight their experience for me as a humanity, as an experience as a human being, and it's all common and it's all right, and I'm perfect all the time, it's been so important to me. So I think that understanding that as a human being, the 3 principles are a part of that, of course, but I just noticed that my perspective, I think that will change. I just wanted to say it. I don't have any questions about it, or it just make more sense to me, talking about being a human being and talking about the 3 principles.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've sometimes had clients who I think they probably have read more Sydney Banks and listened to Sydney Banks more than I ever will, right? Right? Because sometimes if we feel like we need fixing and we've got to learn how to do this and I've got to really understand the 3 principles, and we can then just turn it into a doing, you know, like, right? And now we turn the 3 principles into an exercise of questions and answers and getting and doing. And I don't think that's what Sid wanted, you know, from what I've listened to him speak and, you know, my teachers who knew him. I remember Dickin telling me a story once. He said one time Sid was talking and he was booked to talk, you know, like a thing like this. And so he was supposed to talk for, I don't know, 45 minutes. And after about 25 minutes, he was like, I'm done. Let's go outside and enjoy the sunshine. No, Sid, you're supposed to keep going. And he's like, no, I feel good. Do you all feel good? Let's go outside and enjoy the sunshine. You know, like he stopped because the whole point of this, like you said, is to be a human being, to just enjoy being, right? We're not trying to get somewhere. And the more I've stopped trying to get somewhere and stopped trying to understand it and stopped trying to really, really deeply understand this, I found now that I can look around and I'm so much more comfortable. And situations that used to be very painful for me, or I used to be very self-conscious about social situations. And now it's just like, they're so much easier. And it's because I stopped trying to understand and stopped trying to fix it and stopped trying to do, and just being myself, which sounds so corny and like such a cliche. I am more comfortable being myself now than I ever have in my life. I was always trying to be somebody else, or not maybe somebody else, but louder, funnier, bigger, more successful, you know, whatever I thought, you know, would make me happy or more popular. And I was always scared to just be me because I thought you wouldn't like me. You'd think I was boring. You'd think I wasn't, you know, good enough in some way. And I see now how that's insecure. That was just my insecure thinking. So once I stopped, that just kind of like has fallen away now. Being me is kind of fun. You know, I like being me now, pretty much most of the time. I don't have to. I used to be so judgmental. So just being the human being I am now is more than okay.
And that we will always be a human being. We will always have human experiences. So
yeah,
no matter how long we have known of the principles, even sorry,
yeah.
one of the sorry, there was one of the one webinar I was on, and the webinar, she told she has been with the principles for 50 years and she got so angry for 2 days. So she just pointed out that she still had reactions as a human being, human experiences. And I can recognize what you're saying about trying to be something else, and perhaps that's one of the things that I'm noticing now, that I'm okay, and I'm seeing more of I'm okay, no matter how I am, how I'm doing. The universe doesn't mind how I am, how I look, what I think, what I eat.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But there is a tendency to think that we can stop being a human being, as you said. I now understand the thinking and the 3 principles, so I shouldn't be reacting like this.
Right. I had a conversation about this with a client this morning. I had a client in America, and she's her mother is very sick. And so she said to me, I'm trying not to cry. So I said, why are you trying not to cry? She says, well, I shouldn't cry. I said, who said you shouldn't cry? If your mother is very sick and your mother's in a lot of pain and suffering. I said, understanding the 3 principles doesn't mean that we are going to turn into robots. That's not the purpose here. I said, you love her very much. And when you love someone, you care. And that might mean tears, right? So I said, have a good cry. If you need to have a good cry, that's okay. And then have a good cry. And then when you're ready, you'll come back and see if you can be helpful and see if there's something you need to do. Because I think sometimes we get this idea that if we understand the principles, we shouldn't get upset about things. But what if it's appropriate to be upset? It'd be weird if you didn't. Wouldn't it be weird if she wasn't upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's been one of the many freedoms for me is, you know, like if someone stole my purse, my money, I'd be angry, right? Maybe only for a few minutes, but you know, what if that's appropriate? What if it's okay to be frustrated? You know, what if it's okay to be sad? See, before when I was younger, I didn't know where sadness ended and then self-pity started. And I would dive off the cliff into self-pity and be drowning, which is very unattractive. Drowning in self-pity. And now I'm okay if I feel sad, or I'm okay if I, you know, I'm lucky enough to have, you know, friends that I can talk to about these things. I don't have to put on a show all the time and be perfect. It's such a relief, you know? So I think the principles have helped me experience emotions. I was going to use the word appropriately. I don't know if that's the right word, but that I'm not going to judge myself if I get upset about something, or like you said, be human. And I think we all know when we've kind of gone off the cliff into, you know, bad behavior, because it doesn't feel good. But if like, say, God forbid, you lost someone that you love very close to you, and you have a good cry, and you feel sad, and it might not go away, you know, for a few, I don't know, however long it is, but that sadness can have an energy to it. There can be a sweetness in the sadness. And I think that's how I know that it's an appropriate reaction. But when the sadness starts feeling heavy and intense, and it's starting to separate me from other people, and it's starting to make me feel sick or miss things, that's when like there's an alarm that's telling me, hold on a minute, where are we going with this? So this thing of being human, it took me a bit of practice to get here, and I'm still, you know, on a journey. I think we're all on a journey, and that's okay. We're all learning. Yeah.
We are not robots. We have feelings.
Yes, and that's okay.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's nice to see you. Yeah.
So is there anyone else having any questions? You can raise your hand, or if you don't know about the digital, you can do like this. You know, Hannah is also both have experience herself about chronic pain, but she can also like answer questions around pain or other like mental problems. Like, yeah. No. You know what I would like, Hannah, if you want to. I think I've never heard you talk about how you got rid of your chronic back pain. If you want to tell the story.
Yeah. The truth is, I don't know. Because sometimes when I work with people with pain, they're like, especially when sometimes people come, they hear they have my book or they hear my name and they don't know anything about the 3 principles. They just know that I had a lot of pain and it went away. And their first question is like, what did you do? And how long did it take? And, you know, all these doing type questions. And so I say, I don't know. Because what happened was I had this chronic back pain for, say, 25 years. And it wasn't all the time, but it was probably about every month to 6 weeks, it would flare up. And it would be so bad, I'd be lying on the floor. You know, I had sometimes I'd have to miss work, or I'd walk around. When I was a school teacher, I used to walk around with a hot water bottle on my back, you know, big scarf around my middle, like hobbling around. I had a walking stick. I mean, I was paralyzed a couple of times, you know, just completely lost power in my body. Very, very scary. And I didn't think my pain could go away. I didn't know. I mean, I was always told that it was because of my back. I had 3 herniated discs, and I have one leg that's slightly longer than the other. So my pelvis is slightly slanted. And the doctors always tell me, well, that's what's putting your lower back under pressure, and it's very unstable, and that's why it keeps, you know, going out. So I'm not a doctor, and I would just, you know, say, okay. So I had this story in my head that my back is unstable and it's going to be like this for the rest of my life. And it's kind of frightening now when I think that I walked around with this story for a long time, that my spine could just, you know, crumble at any minute. So I had to be very careful. And I thought that's just how it's going to be for the rest of my life. And then when I came across the 3 principles, I got so excited about, you know, I really, really fell in love with it straight away. And I went to London. I live in Jerusalem in Israel. So I went to London to do this One Thought course with Aaron Turner. And the course was 6 months. And I had to, it's different now, I think it's all online, but back then we had George and Linda Pransky and Elsie Spittle as our teachers. It was amazing. And we had to be there for the beginning and again in the middle and then for the end. So I had to fly backwards and forwards, you know, from Jerusalem to London. I spent a lot of time in Istanbul airport, you know, getting cheap flights and just like hours in Istanbul, just trying to save some money and like sleeping on. So all those, the flying, the sitting in airports, the staying with friends, all that kind of stuff, are all the situations where my back would have really hurt. And I stopped going to the chiropractor because I was trying to save money for this course. And at the end of the 6 months, and I remember literally sitting here going like, that's weird. It doesn't hurt. And I've been doing all these things like flying and sleeping in different places where normally my back would have gotten very upset and very sore. And I sat here and I thought, when did I last have a really bad pain flare up? And I thought, well, it hasn't been since this 6 months. And then I thought, in fact, it hasn't been since I came across the 3 principles. This is, I remember going, that's so weird, right? So the way I understand it now is my body was screaming at me to slow down. And I think in fact, this is something really interesting to me, but I was probably around the 3 principles for 3 or 4 years before I started to realize just how anxious I used to be. Because I never saw it as anxiety. I saw it as, I wouldn't have called it overthinking. I would have just called it thinking a lot. I was thinking a lot, you know, because that was the responsible thing to do. Thinking a lot about maybe my problems, your problems, the problems of the world, whatever it was. I'm thinking a lot about it. I spent so much time up in my head. I was also very self-conscious. And it took me a while to start understanding that that was anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety because I was right. I was very arrogant, right? Because I was right, I didn't see that what I was doing was wrong, overthinking. And so what I started to work out was that as I started to get insights into the principles and I started feeling safer and calmer, my mood was going up. My level of consciousness was getting better. So my body didn't need to scream at me anymore. And it wasn't because of the injuries. It wasn't because those had all healed. We've got no, like, so I still have one leg longer than the other. My pelvis is still slanted and I don't have any pain, right? So it was never about that. It's just the doctors were trying to find out reasons. And what I see now is that, I don't know if this is true of everybody, but I know it's true of me. And a lot of the people I talk to, is that my body speaks to me. So when I'm maybe stressed or upset, my back is going to start hurting. Or maybe I'm going to start having asthma or itchy skin or something. These are all things that I had for many years. And they got really bad and really painful. And now, if I got a little bit upset about something, it will come just a tiny bit. And I'm so grateful now because I know it's kind of like a little tap on the shoulder. Careful. So for example, I live in Israel and we've had a war going on for over a year and a half now. And terrible, terrible things happened after October 7th. And I remember about 10 days after it started, my back started getting really hurting. And I'm so grateful for this understanding because I suddenly thought, I'm stressed, right? I'm living in a war zone and I'm probably watching the news too much. Now, like I was just saying to Nina and the others, it's like, I didn't judge myself for it. I'm living in a war zone. It's like, you know, literally there have been rockets and my building has shaken a few times with the sirens and the rockets. It's been, you know, quite right in our face. So I'm not judging myself, but I suddenly realized I probably shouldn't be watching the news as much as I am. It's affecting me physically. And so the physical stuff was like a little, careful, you need to look after your mental health here. And so I stopped. I mean, I listen to enough news that I know what's happening to be safe. And then I stopped. Like I noticed it was getting a little obsessive. So, you know, checking it every 10 minutes. I don't need to check it every 10 minutes. Just let it go. Check it in the morning, maybe check it at lunchtime, check it in the evening. That's enough. And the pain went away. It didn't turn into like a big episode like it used to. Like the backs of my hands were getting itchy and I thought, that's a sign. Come back to the moment. And even in the moment where I was, you know, living in the middle of this horror, I felt safe. Because safety is a state of mind. So I can tell you that you can live anywhere, in any circumstances, and I can feel safe because of it's my thinking, not because of the situation. Now, I've learned how to take care of myself, like I have, you know, I have a gas mask, I have water and chocolate and tuna fish, you know, I have all my emergency supplies if I need it. I know how to take care of myself and stay safe. The rest of it is going on in my mind, and no one can get in my head except me, right? No one, not politicians, not my neighbors, not anyone. And so I can feel safe even in these horrible circumstances because I started to understand my mind, and my back hasn't hurt since, which is incredible blessing. So I didn't get rid of my pain. My pain went away, I think, because it didn't need to be there anymore. It served its purpose. It got my attention. It brought me back to this moment where I'm okay. And now it's just like occasionally like a little, and I've learned the language of it now. I can hear it, and so I can hear just the little gentle signals, and it doesn't have to turn into anything terrible anymore. So it's never gotten bad ever again, which is amazing. Yeah, thank you for asking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking, thank you. We were talking about that in our group when Eva shared her story, that it's so great to hear stories. Of course, in everything, but also in the Tre Principles,
Yeah.
about people, people's story. If it is like, how did you get to know Tre, or like you said about the pain, or like everything. So yeah, so I can maybe end with saying that to all of you that's been here, that if you want to share a tiny bit of your story in the Facebook page or Facebook group, it would be really great. And of course, we are going to have several webinars, both national, because we have many great people who can share a lot with us in Norway as well, but also, yeah, in international community. So, and thank you, Chana. It's been really great to having you here, and that you could come and talk to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Hatzlacha. Hatzlacha is Hebrew for good luck. Hatzlacha means good luck to all of you, because you're starting this community and you should have success in getting to know each other and spreading, you know, this amazing new understanding. Well, it's not you, it's new. It's going to be new to a lot of people that you talk to, right? And so I'm wishing you Hatzlacha with that. That's Hebrew for good luck, and it should go well.
Yeah, I think it will go well. And I just also want to point out that this is a group for all of us. So it's not my group or Eva's group or Nina's, it's everyone's group. So please just, yeah, be active, take contact with me if you want to, yeah, and we'll do a lot of fun together, I hope. And also a reminder for me too that Tre is not self-development and a method and something you have to do. It's just how we live our life. Yeah. And by understanding more, we can be, as you say, have a much more peace of mind, yeah, etc., etc. Yeah. So okay, so we say goodbye for now, and thank you, and thank you for being here, all of you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Good
Bye.
luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.